Welcome everyone to another episode of Dads of Dagobah. This is the review as episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. Came out on Wednesday. We've watched it. We're ready to talk about it. Sean, let's go back to what we did with Book of Boba Fett. What's your word of the week, man? What's your word of the week?
That's a great idea. I'm glad you came up with that, Joseph. My word of the week this week was interior design. I mean, Vader, can you even have anything else so minimalistic? Just nothing on the walls, all stone furniture, black everywhere. That can't be comfortable.
Sean, you idiot. That's 2 words.
That's not my word of the week. Anyone who chose that word of the week would be a doofus. My real word of the week was trauma. Emotional trauma, physical trauma, mental trauma.
You want to know what my word of the week is, Sean?
What's your word of the week?
My word of the week is... No, my word of the week is minimalistic. Listen, Vader, go to IKEA, bro. Get some stuff in your office, man. You got a chair and black. What are you, Dwight Schrute? See? Oh, my wife's calling me. Hold on, let me... Hello, Abby. You're here with Sean.
Oh, sorry.
Can I call you back?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Mothers of Mandalore.
It's the Mothers of Mandalore.
Nope. See ya.
Bye. I asked her, do you want to do Mothers of Mandalore? She's like, that's the stupidest idea you've ever had. Like, that's what makes it so funny. You and Corey talking about Star Wars? That'd be hilarious. Okay. I mean, Vader, get yourself something in that office, please. But all jokes aside, what a fun episode. What a great episode. One part that I was a little hesitant about. We'll talk about that later near the end of the episode. But from start to finish, that was a great episode.
I loved it. I wasn't expecting to get that much Vader Obi-Wan so early in the show.
Yeah, there's no way that was happening in my mind.
It was a pleasant surprise, and we've already discussed before we started recording. I think this was at parts frightening and scary.
Yes.
I was like tense, especially that scene. We'll get to it later, but the scene where Obi-Wan ignites the lightsaber and it's actually impeding his vision because he can't really see past the glow of the blue. I'm like, Vader's right behind him. Something bad's about to happen. I kept waiting for Vader to pop up and skewer him.
This was probably the scariest Star Wars has been, in my opinion.
Yeah. No.
And it was all Vader. It was all Vader. Vader was a scary guy. That was awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, well, should we start at the beginning and talk through some of these scenes?
Yeah, so it seems like the beginning, we go straight to, we have Obi-Wan meditating, again, trying to commune with his master Qui-Gon. He's not there yet.
There's no way that Liam Neeson isn't in this thing.
Well, yes, we talked about that before. Okay, that's old news, man. Liam Neeson's going to be in it, and this is my theory. They're going to be fighting, and Liam Neeson's going to come up in the middle of them and say, stop it, you two. Quit it. Quit it.
If we cared about editing this podcast, I would say to the editor, roll the footage from last week when that was my idea.
Yeah, but it seems like if you cut yourself off from the Force for 10 years, you're going to have a hard time trying to get the Force back. I think we saw that both at the beginning and the end of this episode. He got a little lucky.
Bit rusty.
He got lucky last week saving Leia. And by the way, forgot to do the word of the week last week, which is dinosaurs are now canon. By the way.
Dinosaur Jurassic bounty hunters. Well, and then you notice that last week, too, Leia was like, I've only been with you for however long, and I've been shot out. I almost fell off a roof. I'm like, you fell off the roof because you're a doofus.
Yeah, that was your doing. You were saved by Ben Kenobi. We then transitioned to Mustafar, which looked fantastic. Second time we've seen it since Rogue One. Looked great. We see Darth Vader. I think he thinks the Grand Inquisitor is dead, and Obi-Wan was the one to kill him, and he is telling Reva she needs to finish the job and she'll become Grand Inquisitor or else. Quite the ultimatum, right?
Totally. I also think we got to see a lot of Vader, like when the little tubes were coming out of his back and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is more of his, deformed, mutilated body than we've ever seen before. And when the helmet's coming down and it's Hayden's face, I was like, oh man, that's Anakin in there. That's Anakin Skywalker.
Oh,
can I just say though about the Inquisitors is that now 3 episodes into this show, they have major chemistry issues. They are not a productive team. They could use some,
team building,
organizational development and training workshops or something, some team building exercises, because they're just not aligned on what they're trying to do.
That's right. Do we go anywhere else before I think we then go to Obi-Wan and Leia on the ship. They land on the planet Draxus? No,
not even
just
close.
making up words now.
It starts with an M, but I don't remember what it is.
Mabu. That's what it is. Mabu. And it looks like it's a former. I mean, Obi-Wan's kind of obviously. It seems like Obi-Wan's been there before. Used to be a farming, agricultural planet, and now it's being strip mined by the Empire. And this is still kind of the early days of the Empire, so it doesn't seem like it's as bad in people's minds. Well, especially Leia. Leia doesn't quite understand the Empire yet, and maybe even Bail Organa is still. The rebellion hasn't started yet, right? So they're still trying to work within the confines of this new empire. And there may be some rumblings, which we see later in the episode, that some underground things are happening. But for right now, it's the Empire and nothing else.
Right. Yeah, and it was during this sequence when they're walking on this path that I felt a little bit like Obi-Wan gets like really short and aggressive with Leia. And it was a little bit jarring.
Mm-hmm.
Even I was watching with Corey and she was like, okay, calm down, Obi-Wan. He's like yelling at this 10-year-old girl, like, not everyone's good in this world. They're liars. Like, oh yeah. Gosh, calm down. Jeez.
They go to the rendezvous point. No one is there. And Leia's like, we need to find some help. And he's like, no one's ever going to come. No one's going to be here. And then she waves down passing car, van, whatever you call it, hovercraft. And her little...
Before this was when he had his little hallucination.
Oh, yeah. He sees Anakin as he remembers him. He doesn't see Darth Vader because he doesn't know who Darth Vader is, right?
Right. He sees Anakin. And at first, I didn't quite know... It took me a second to register that he was hallucinating and seeing Anakin. At first, I thought, is that who they're supposed to be meeting? Because it was just a robed person. Anyway, but yeah, so clearly I think because he's opened himself back up to the Force and he has kind of felt and had that connection with Anakin at this point, all of this PTSD is bubbling up.
Rough stuff. They wave someone down, and they get onto a, transport car. And the guy's name is Meeks. Freaks? Sneaks.
I thought it was Freck.
Freck. There we go. Freck. And he's like a mole. He has a little crazy nose. Sean, is he speaking out of his nose or is he speaking out of his mouth? Because when he's talking, his nose is going crazy, but his mouth is hardly moving.
I don't know who voices that character, but the first few lines I swore, I'm like, is it Seth Rogen? Who's voicing this guy?
I know. And he has a really funny line too where he's like, that was a weird story. Like, that's obviously a lie.
Yeah. How many times can they say we're farmers from Tall?
Uh-huh.
Like, okay, and you're just out here in the middle of nowhere in this mining colony?
I did think, was this before the Stormtroopers or... Well, I think this was before the Stormtroopers got on. We hear Obi-Wan talk about his childhood or what he remembers of it. And talk about childhood trauma. I mean, this is just what, like, Luke talks about later in The Last Jedi, best movie Star Wars ever made, talks about the fallacy of the Jedi was, you know, this idea that they were the best thing ever, and they're taking kids from their parents, and Obi-Wan didn't know his parents. You know, it's like, that didn't seem like the Jedi way.
Yeah, and teaching them that attachment and like love is something that is bad.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was after the Stormtroopers, because the Stormtroopers hop on and Obi-Wan does the slip up where he accidentally calls Leia instead of Luna or Luma, or I don't know what he was calling her.
Uh-huh.
And the Stormtrooper picked up on it immediately. And then he came up with the story, well, that was her mother's name. And then I think he sincerely was saying, I feel like when I look at her, I see, you know, her mother's face or whatever.
Yeah, that was a sweet moment.
And that's what prompts Leia, after the Stormtroopers get off at their next stop. Leia asked, you know, did you know my real mother and are you my real father?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a nice moment.
Oh, yeah, great moment. That actress who plays Leia, fantastic. I'm glad. I was kind of worried that halfway through this episode we wouldn't see her again, kind of the way things were left off. But I'm glad we're keeping her around because I think she is a standout in this show so far.
Yeah, no, I think she's been great. And I think I've seen a few things on Twitter, and I agree with it. I don't know if they've explicitly done this, but I think they're showing that even if she's not conscious of it, you know, she is curious about the Force. And at the beginning of the episode, she asks Obi-Wan about the Force, and he explains it as, you know, when you're in the dark and you turn on a light and you feel that safety from the light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we know that Leia's Force abilities are more geared towards her ability to read people, to, you know, influence people, you know, be a leader, those types of things. And I think we may even already be seeing that subtly in this episode of, you know, her being able to read Obi-Wan.
Right.
And I think that's kind of fun headcanon to think that she's able to do that because of the Force.
And she doesn't realize it's the Force, right? She doesn't realize till, episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, where we kind of see her kind of use the Force for the first time, at least from our perspective. But maybe she has been using it for many years, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe even in A New Hope, they talk about how she's hard to break, you know? So maybe there. Anyway. I think during some of those scenes, we intercut back to the Inquisitor's palace on the planet that we first saw in Jedi Fallen Order, the PlayStation, the video game, one of the last levels of the game, the place of the Inquisitors where they hang out. It's down to 3 Inquisitors. We only see 3. I'm not sure where in the timeline Jedi Fallen Order takes place. I would suspect a little before this? Or right at the same time?
I don't know.
Because Cal's a young kid at Order 66, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just trying to see if we're going to see any of the other sisters from that video game in the show, but I think we've seen the Inquisitors that we're going to see, right?
I think so too. I mean, spoiler alert, in Fallen Order, the second sister, Vader kills her at the end.
Yeah.
And then Cal kills the ninth sister. So, I mean, there aren't any other Inquisitors in that video game that even survived.
Right. Yeah, good point. And we see there's some infighting. I think you alluded to this a little bit earlier. There's some infighting in the Inquisitors. They're not on the same page. They both want to be, well, at least Reva and the other guy, both want to be the next Grand Inquisitor. And they both know in order to do it, they need to impress Vader. After they send out the probe droids, and the probe droids find Obi-Wan, then he then takes credit for it, right? He's like, I already alerted Lord Vader. He was very pleased, Anyway.
Yeah. Which is it going to be a plot twist in this series that the Grand Inquisitor isn't dead?
I think Reva for sure will die at the end of this show. Because Vader kind of alluded to it, like, if you don't do this, then you won't live to regret it. So I think she's done for. And that would then allow the Grand Inquisitor to come back in some way. Maybe he's causes her demise. I don't know. Because we know he's still alive.
Right.
Are you saying maybe we won't see him come back in this show?
Well, I still think it's a possibility that are they going to completely retcon the first season of Rebels?
There's no way. There's no way, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Because, yeah, okay. Well, we shall see with that. But, yeah, the Inquisitors, obviously, between I don't know which brother that is, the whatever brother, and then the third sister, Reva, clearly jockeying for position to try to be Vader's next protege and right hand. And again, they get really testy with each other about minor little things that I'm like, that doesn't even matter. Why are you competitive about that thing?
Yeah.
Like Reva takes one step forward in that village and the brother guy steps in front. We were told not to engage. I'm like, she can't take one step forward. You're like freaking out, calling her out if she like takes a step.
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah, and if I was that brother too, I'd be like, if Reva stepped forward and tried to go fight Obi-Wan with Vader, I'd be like, go for it, and you can suffer Vader's wrath. I'm not going to stop you. Like, I don't need to be your babysitter. But
well, there we go.
So the probe droid seeds Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan has to shoot the probe droid down and defeat all the stormtroopers. And I was surprised he didn't break out the lightsaber.
I know, I was surprised too. But I'm glad we got the payoff when we did get the payoff. Right. But I was thinking, he's going to bust out his lightsaber right now.
Right. And then the other patrol comes and we find out that one of the Imperial officers is actually a rebel freedom fighter / spy.
Hey, first of all, we got a cool scene of a stormtrooper getting sliced in half.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
And then they're concerned about this gate when it looks like they can easily go up the hill and just go around the gate. But anyway, I digress.
But yeah, when Tala came to help them, I'm like, oh, okay, we got a little General Hux action happening.
Oh, sweet. She then takes them to the city and takes them into kind of a droid repair shop and hides them in a room. And that's where, in a previous attempt of recording this, you had your background character. And who was he, Sean?
Yeah, we've had difficulty recording this. What else is new? Par for the course for our podcast. And I had my background was a picture of Quinlan Voss.
Yeah.
That Obi-Wan references, because it looks like in that underground railroad. What did they call it? The path.
Yep.
In that kind of secret area, all the Jedi or refugees who have kind of been shuffled through there have all kind of signed their names, etched their names into the walls, and one of them was Quinlan Voss. And so, that's a good obscure character that fans of the Clone Wars and the novels.
Wasn't he originally in Phantom Menace? It's like a background character in Phantom Menace.
I think he might show up in live action somewhere like that, yes.
And then, yeah, he has the rich backstory in Clone Wars. So that's a little fun little Easter egg for you. They then are about to leave, and Daddy Vader shows up.
Well, it feels like maybe 2 minutes passes, and all of a sudden it's pitch black outside.
It's dark outside, and middle of the night. They must have some extreme rotation of their planet.
And Obi-Wan is, was like overcome with this distressing feeling through the Force. Anyway, and I felt like this was a very tense sequence of Vader just walking through that village. And, basically cold-blooded murdering people. Like no motive, no reason, just...
Is he trying to draw Obi-Wan out? Is that what he's attempting to do?
I thought that's what he was basically doing.
He knows Obi-Wan is nearby and probably watching. I'm going to pull him out. I'm going to draw him out by causing all this havoc.
Yeah. And, Obi-Wan tells Leia and Tala to head out. Now, I will say, so we'll get to this by the end of the episode, but the one mystery for me in this whole episode was this tunnel system that Tala and Leia start running through, because for the rest of the episode, Leia is sprinting through these tunnels. And I don't understand what happened. She got all turned around in there. It must be a labyrinth, because by the time she gets out, Reva, who barely spent 10 seconds in the tunnels, has already cut her off on the whole other side of the tunnel system.
Yeah, she's already at the top.
And Tala had also gotten out to go help Obi-Wan. I'm like, everyone has been able to cover kilometers, miles of ground, and Leia can barely crawl her way through this tunnel at the whole last half of this episode. I'm like, what is happening in the space-time continuum? She's like in the world between worlds in those tunnels.
Yeah, she's just running around. She got on some loop. She doubled back on herself. Who knows what happened?
Crazy. Okay, so Obi-Wan tells them to go off, and then he's kind of escapes, and he's out. And there were a few times where Vader's just walking, and when he snaps his attention somewhere, oh my gosh, I was scared.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh no. Oh.
Well, it looked like Vader was even staring right at him through the door.
Right.
Like, you see what I'm doing right now? You're going to come out and play? Oh, you're not? Boom, kill. Then he has some snaps. Oh, were you just there? You scurry little guy? You trying to run away from me? Somehow anticipates his move and beats him to the rock quarry.
This is happening too much in this show, where Obi-Wan's been running, or Leia's been running through the tunnels, and the bad guy somehow cuts them off.
Is there. Boom. I'm
like, how did Vader cut him off? What's going on right now? How did Reva cut off Leia in those tunnels? Anyway, so cuts him off, ignites the lightsaber. I mean, it's basically another Rogue One scene, baby, where it's just the red light silhouette in the darkness.
It was so good. It was so good for so many reasons.
The other thing is, I feel like they've done a really good job, in my mind, of showing the tension and apprehension in Obi-Wan to even embrace his own identity as a Jedi.
He didn't even ignite his lightsaber, right?
He pulled it out like, okay, should I? And then he just literally ran away. I thought so well done to show he's not in the mindset of I'm a Jedi master and I'm gonna fight this Sith Lord. He's like, that's not me. That was 10 years ago. I'm not that person anymore. Like, I just need to get out of here.
And what does Vader say to him? He says, I am what you made me.
The first words that they say to each other is Obi-Wan says, what have you become? Vader says, I am what you made me. And I'm like, oh, man, the emotional damage.
Isn't that what Oprah said? Didn't she say something like, you teach people how to treat yourself or something? It sounded a little like Oprah there. I am what you taught me to be. Like, well, no, not really. That wasn't Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Well, and then they proceed, they play this kind of cat and mouse game some more. We flash back a few times to the Inquisitors scanning the town, which I'm like, every time they cut back to them, I'm like, who cares about this?
Yeah. Can we go back to the big thing here? And Leia constantly running through the tunnels.
Yeah. But Obi-Wan, kind of running around these big, rock quarry, piles and stuff like that, and finally ignites the lightsaber. But I feel like he almost ignites it out of panic. Like, he doesn't know where Vader's going to be coming from, and he just ignites it because of the noise or Vader's breathing, or I don't remember what.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a conscious or a deliberate action, right? It's like...
Yeah, he clearly isn't centered. He isn't balanced. He's not, at one with the Force. He needs some meditation mantras from Chirrut Imwe from Rogue One. He needs to be a little, I'm one with the Force. I'm with the Force, and the Force is with me action going on. And he just seems off balance. He just seems flustered, and I thought Vader was going to be like it was going to turn and it was going to be like lighting up his mask like he was right there. But he kind of came off from a far away, and he was like, you can't run, Obi-Wan. Like, this is it. We're here. And I think Obi-Wan once again did, what's the opposite of ignite? He turns off the lightsaber.
Retracted.
And, runs again.
Here's the thing, talking about this fight, the problem with knowing that there's 6 episodes is I'm thinking the whole time, this is only episode 3. So nothing big's going to happen, right? Obi-Wan's not going to win this. So I'm already kind of going into it thinking, oh, okay, this is just their first spar, right? This isn't going to be the end-all, be-all. But at the same time, they did such a good job of making it the first time. Because I was thinking, in A New Hope, Vader says, the last time we met, I was but the learner. And that's definitely not the case in this fight, right?
Right.
Vader would not be saying that in A New Hope if this is the fight, right?
If this
he's
was
definitely
the last
in
time
control.
They were going to see each other.
Yeah, he's definitely in control. Obi-Wan is constantly on his heels. Like, even when they're fighting, it doesn't seem like Obi-Wan's getting any sort of attack in whatsoever. He's just playing defense, just trying to stay alive, right?
Well, I mean, to me, it was pretty clear. Vader was just straight up toying with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was fighting him one-handed for most of it. Like, it was one-handed. It was basically testing. I feel like testing the waters, toying with him. At one point, he even, mocks him. Time has made you weak. Yeah. So I feel like Vader recognized that, and Obi-Wan was not in a headspace, not physically ready. Like, he just wasn't ready at all for that confrontation.
Yep.
And so I fully expect that in the next, 2 episodes, that's going to change, and Obi-Wan's going to get back into his groove and connect, with the Force and become balanced. And then I'm hoping for a much more epic showdown and at the end of the season for Obi-Wan to regain that mantle as the master and put Vader back in his place.
Here's what I liked about this. I liked how he was still trying to save the Skywalker twins, even at this moment. It seemed like he was delaying, trying to buy Leia time from the sense of it. That's why he's running. He's like, I'll draw him out. I'll draw him away from you guys, right? So he still was concerned about Leia. And by another aspect of Luke as well. You know, he's not on Tatooine right now. He didn't draw Vader to Tatooine, right? And then also, the end of the fight, this is where I get a little bit confused. And maybe you may know why I'm confused here. But Vader, they have a little showdown. Vader pulls down some sort of material that ignites easily. And man, oh man, he force holds Obi-Wan, it looks like. He's not choking him, just holding him. And then drags him through the fire. A la Dwight Schrute at beach games. Just dragging him through the fire, right? That was a very intense scene. I was like, oh, dang. They are not messing around in this show, right? And, I mean, hard to watch. But then, you know, Tala comes and all these stormtroopers come and he says, go fetch him for me. And then Atala kind of distracts them and reignites the things. And then all of a sudden, like, Vader sees the robot come and pick up Obi-Wan and just, like, watches him walk away with him. And I'm like, what? I didn't understand the ending of that. Like, you've been waiting for so long, and you're just like, oh, we'll meet again, Obi-Wan. I don't understand. I know it's a TV show. I know it's fiction, but that wasn't the best.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. It was clear Vader's intention, even during the lightsaber duel, it became clear what Vader's motivation was. It was not to kill Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
it was to make him suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, just the poetic bookend of the last time Obi-Wan sees Anakin, he is literally burning to a crisp. Full body on fire on the banks of the Mustafar lava flow. And now Vader's like, it's payback time, and I'm going to drag you through this fire. And then it sounded like, you know, he's telling the stormtroopers, bring him to me, because I think he was planning to take Obi-Wan back to his castle on Mustafar and torture him some more.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I think that he absolutely was not going to just kill him right there. I don't think he was done with him. But I agree with you, when Tala shoots the stormtrooper and then ignites more of the crystals or whatever that substance was, I thought a little bit like Vader couldn't get through that fire if he wanted to.
He's afraid of fire. That's it. He's afraid.
He couldn't do some sort of force thing and manipulate the air to gust out a little path for himself. But I agree with you. It's a show, and they needed some way for Obi-Wan to lose, but also get away.
Right. He needs to be bested, but still live on another episode or two.
But overall, I mean, the portrayal of Vader was, in my mind, perfect. Sinister, menacing, frightening.
Darker than I ever would have thought they would have taken him.
Because I think the temptation is to be like, oh, well, that's Anakin, and so we know Anakin still has good in him, and, you know, by the end of Return of the Jedi, he turns himself around. But we need to remember, but that's not what where he's at today.
Yep.
Like, he is at the peak of his dark side, you know, commitment, for lack of a better term, and we're seeing it on full display.
It's a great episode. We end with Leia getting captured by Reva. Okay.
Which I'm curious about with that, because I'm like, is Vader gonna see Leia? Like
Oh, I didn't think about that.
what's gonna happen here if Reva has Leia?
But see,
I'm
Vader
surprised-
doesn't know Leia's his, right? Because he even sees Leia in A New Hope. He never knows.
But see, does Vader know that Reva kidnapped Leia?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, because he would put two and two together that, you know, Obi-Wan's there to save Leia and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he would, at the very least, be visiting the Organas. And so I think that would kind of break kind of the continuity for future events in Star Wars. So I don't think Vader can see Leia or like be aware that Leia is the adopted daughter of the Organas on Alderaan.
Part of the story. Speaking of Leia, I think we have answered this week the plot hole that I brought up last week, which was Leia talks about in episode 4, A New Hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You served my father in the Clone Wars. But this Leia, this 10-year-old Leia, is calling him Ben. She knows him as Ben Kenobi, not maybe even just Ben, and doesn't know him as Obi-Wan. So that would then clear up the maybe in the future New Hope Leia is she thinks she's talking to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know yet, but that makes sense.
Well, when she's in the detention block in the prison cell and Luke comes in and she's like, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" He says, "I'm here with Ben Kenobi. We're here to rescue you." And she says, "Ben Kenobi, where is he?"
Oh, yeah, that's right. She does say it. Okay. Well, never mind.
I feel like in that sense, she acknowledges she knows who Ben Kenobi is.
Maybe she thinks Ben Kenobi is different than Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I don't think Leia's that dumb.
I go back to what I said last week. I think her message to R2 about Obi-Wan Kenobi was more of just a polished, diplomatic message that she was
Remember
doing.
what you did for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that she was giving it in the spirit of, I have no idea who you are. I just have heard that you served my father in the Clone Wars. I think she was just presenting it in the way a diplomat would.
Okay. Good answer.
But I don't think we've broken any canon like in A New Hope, she wasn't supposed to know who Obi-Wan was. I think that she can know.
Okay. That's it for this episode. It'll be next Wednesday when we film again. I mean, we were dead. I mean, last week we didn't think we'd see Vader in episode 3, especially a Vader Obi-Wan showdown. So we were way ahead of schedule now, right? Now, according to Mandalorian rules, we're going to go to a different planet and do a totally different scene and maybe fight some giant ice spiders and then come back later in episode 5 and 6.
We need to have our own equivalent of Frog Lady in this. Although Freck was pretty close. He was a good alien character.
Did Obi-Wan kill him? He kind of like bopped him on the head. He just went, oh. Just kind of like accepted his fate and just laid down.
He's still alive. He just got knocked out.
He was pretty funny. Yeah, we'll have to look up who voiced him. Anyway, that's it for this week. Leave a comment what you thought of the episode. Give us a like, give us a share, do whatever you got to do. Boost those engagement numbers so we can get thousands of viewers.
Then maybe we can afford Ethernet cords that will plug into our computers that will give us high-speed internet. It's up to you, viewers. It's up to you to save us. Help us.
You're our only hope.
Our only hope.
They're our only hope. Well, Sean, with that, this is the way.
We have spoken, and we'll see you next time on
The Moms of Mandalore.
Dagobah.
Oh, that's a Dagobah. Okay, bye.
Bye.